What's going on, guys? It's your average consumer, and it is finally time for me to give you my thoughts on this guy over here, the brand new Xbox Series X. Now, if you guys are interested in seeing a Series S review, I'm gonna have that coming soon as well, so definitely make sure you're subscribed and you stay tuned for that. But today, we're talking all things Xbox Series X, from the performance, the design, how it all worked out for me while having it. So let's get into it. So first things first, let's talk about the design. Now, there have been all kinds of different feelings and opinions on this. Some people said it looks like a fridge. Microsoft took that in a very interesting way. The top where you've got your exhaust for, the heat, looks good. I think it looks kind of nice. Now, the issue that you might run into with this console, and probably even worse with the PS5, is just the overall size and where you'll place it. For me, both systems, you just gotta stand them up. That's the way to do it. Now, if you would like to, you could also do it like this as well. And I definitely don't think that's bad. It definitely doesn't stand out as much, but it is a larger box. Now, the only thing that's gonna be a little bit tough with these guys is depending on your something like here. So the PS4 Pro over here and the Xbox One X, they both fit pretty easily inside of this TV stand. Probably not gonna be the case for any of the next generation consoles, except for the Xbox Series S. That one's going to be a lot easier to place just about anywhere. Jay, you think you'd have trouble putting this into your TV area? You think it'd stand out?
It's pretty big.
Carl, what about you?
It would definitely stand out.
Is that an issue for you guys?
My wife won't
Your wife won't do it? What about you,
I
Carl?
live by myself, so I got no problem. I'm good.
Now, what's nice is this thing does have quite a few vents, so you're not gonna have any issues in terms of heat. I haven't experienced this thing getting loud or having any, issues with it just having like a screaming fan. For the most part, in terms of just playing the games that I play, having it appear out in the open, it's been quiet as a mouse.
PS5 look huge as well.
It's listen, the PS5 is huge. You're gonna have a harder time putting the PS5 away than this guy. But design-wise, the Series X does have a very minimal look, whether you like it or not, and it should fit no problem in some modern-looking living rooms, if you care about the design that much. Once you get inside though, you'll be greeted by this UI, and I will say, this UI is very similar to what we've seen on the very, very similar UI, with just some aesthetic change. And you can also do a bunch of customization, get it to be the color that you want. Obviously, mine is rocking some teal because that's what I do. Now, it may be familiar, but is it a user-friendly UI? I still feel like Xbox has some work to do in that department. I know how to navigate this because I've been using it for so long. But if you're new into the Xbox lineup, there might be a slight learning curve in terms of the overall UI. If you're coming from something like a PS4 where everything is pretty linear, all of your apps are just like boop, boop, it's a bit more chaotic. But it looks nice. I like what they did with it. I do wish we saw a little something new rather than something so. Now, let's talk about specs for just a split second. It's a powerful console, and if you compare it on paper to something like the PS5, this is a little bit better. But we'll see how actual performance goes when they both get here. And while I don't want to bore anybody with the CPU clock speed, the teraflops, and the GPU speed, what I do want to talk about is something that's going to hit home for a lot of people, and that's the ability to do 4K gaming and even 120 Hertz gaming. Now, we've all heard about frame rates in the past. For a lot of people, it's been something that can be pretty much ignored. Address it. So when you go into the settings, you'll actually be able to select how you want your system to look on your TV. If you've got a 4K TV, you'll of course be able to select 4K UHD, and the refresh rate. Now, this is a little bit different. Now, not all TVs will support 4K 120 FPS, so that is going to be a bit of a challenge for people trying to pick up a new TV to work with their system. Now, I've got a TV here that is 4K, supports 120 Hertz, but it doesn't do 100, does not have, it's only 2.0. So if I go to 120 Hertz, I'll only be able to do that in 1080p. People are going to run out and purchase a TV to support their new 4K console, but I really implore you to do your research because chances are you might pick up something that says it supports 120 or it supports 4K, but it might not do it together. That HDMI 2.1 is extremely important. So definitely do your research because it can save you a lot of headaches, trust me. Now this might be new for some, just want to see nice graphics. You can go for that 4K, you might enjoy that. So what it really just comes down to is how visually appealing do you want your games to be, or how responsive and smooth looking do you want them to be? So you done figured out where you're gonna put your Xbox, what TV you're gonna use. All that's left is to grab the controller that it comes with and start gaming. But let's talk about this controller. It's very familiar. It is an extremely familiar controller to the previous Xbox One, but there are some nice subtle changes which I think plays a pretty big role. First things first, for me, I've always liked when they had like those ridges and a little bit of grip and texture to the controller, which is what they've added to the little handles over here, as well as the trigger buttons. So if you're into the game, palms are sweating, it's serious, you need all the traction that you can get so you're not just slipping and sliding with all that sweat, you nasty. So
You're talking about me?
no, Jay, no, not you. But also, I do like these changes. Also, what they've changed is the D-pad. Now, we've seen a very similar D-pad on the Xbox Elite controllers, but instead with this guy, the actual D-pad portion, the little cross here, actually rises a bit higher than what we see on the Elite controllers, so you can actually feel them. So when you're pressing it, it feels like the actual D-pad, and then pressing the in-between parts feels what we have as options with the Elite controllers. Those just felt a little bit too flat. And I think the other important change is the share button. So I actually really like having the share button right here in the center. If you press it really quickly, you do a quick screenshot, and if you hold it, depending on what you have as a default setting, you'll be able to prepare a clip so you can save a gameplay clip. So for me, that's huge because every time I pulled off, let me go record what happened there. I've definitely stood in place trying to find that menu, leaving myself exposed to get shot. So this is a lot better. Don't judge me. Not to mention the fact that this also has USB Type-C. Now this does still take, AA batteries. So if you want that rechargeable battery, you're gonna have to buy that as like, those kits separately. Some people are pretty upset that they still take AA batteries. Honestly, I don't know if it bothers me too much. I like being able to have the batteries in there and not worry about recharging every night or every couple of playthroughs. So there's a peace of mind that comes with using the AA batteries that rechargeable batteries don't give. But I do understand that it can be annoying to change them out. But now you're familiar with the controller, you think you're ready to game, but what about your audio? We've got this guy over here. SteelSeries was cool enough to sponsor today's video and send over their Arctis 7X wireless headset. On the ear cups, you can of course pull out the mic if you want to talk to your teammates. Thanks to its wireless USB-C dongle, it's also compatible with the Switch, PCs, and even Android devices. You don't have to worry about lag. It has lossless 2.4 gigahertz audio, so it has high fidelity. And you also get all of your controls right here on the headset. But what's really, really cool is the fact that this thing has a 24-hour battery life, guys. I've personally been using it with the Series X. I've been enjoying it. If you guys want to try it out, I'll of course have links down below in the description. You've got your placement. Let's talk about gameplay. And I gotta say, gaming on a next-gen console is different. Things are just so much faster, whether it's the load times, which we've covered on this channel in the past. The load times are absolutely insane, and it does feel like a next-gen system. Now, we've gone and played a couple of games that have some disastrous load times like Monster Hunter, and we've seen some ridiculous improvements in terms of the speed there, and it was absolutely awesome to experience. So you guys can see for yourself just what having an SSD inside of this thing, a faster, and the fact that this thing is backwards compatible, developers can always go back and optimize them for the Series X. But it is insane to think that the entire X, and when we're talking about optimized for the Series X, we're looking at better load times, better frame rates, better graphics, all that kind of stuff, we're gonna be able to see developers really have the ability, will automatically be fine-tuned for HDR. That you can still get those nice quality colors, get increased. Now, some other really cool features of the Series X that I think people will really enjoy, things like down below in the description, where you can literally jump out of a game, jump into another game, and not worry about like those super long loading screens in the beginning where you go through all those different publishers and companies and people who had a hand in it. You get right into the game, which is awesome. But overall, guys, I do think that the gameplay experience has been pretty awesome with the Series X. I've been playing this game, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and it's actually been pretty fun. I haven't gotten really far, but I feel like I'm going to actually try and finish this game. I love Japan and everything about Japan, and I'm not gonna lie, I low-key feel like I'm there in this game. But either way, my experience in terms of the gameplay has been awesome. Definitely feels like next gen is here, so I'm really happy about that. Now, the question is, do I recommend this system? And I can wholeheartedly say, absolutely. Now, while I may not be the biggest fan of the UI, I think the generational leap compared to the One X, because of just how much faster and smoother everything is. And not to mention, we're going to be able to see things like maybe 8K come to the future. Xbox has talked about being able to support 8K. That's something we have to really sit down and figure out and see how that's gonna work and how far down the line with the Series X that's gonna come into play. But the fact that that's even on the table shows how much power that this thing has and just how much longevity that we're looking at with this system. Now, of course, it all comes down to personal preference. Are you an X? But like with any console, honestly, we do have to see what kind of games are gonna come out for the system. The system itself has everything you're gonna need, but titles are a huge, huge part of it. But from a hardware perspective, this thing has everything. But that about wraps it up for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this helped you in your purchasing decision. Let me know what you guys think of the Series X. I have enjoyed my time with it and I cannot wait for Series X titles to start coming out. I'm very, very hyped and optimistic for those. But like I said, let me know what you guys think. Which system are you going for? Go ahead, have your console wars in the comment section. It's okay. But that about wraps it up, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, be the cool guy or girl that gives this video a thumbs up. And if you want to see PlayStation content, don't worry, that's coming too. And an Xbox Series S review also coming. It is in the works. Until next time, guys, it's your average consumer. Peace. Next on this anyway. I don't even know why it all matters. That's the only game I care about.